Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, welcome back. Welcome to the next lecture. Our today's lecture is again in continuation of Mudaraba and Musharaka as modes of finance. In the last lecture, we discussed how Mudaraba is different from Musharaka, how investment can be done, how profit and loss are shared, and how practically Musharaka and Mudaraba are important modes of finance, and how they can be used in our daily life when the unemployment is increasing like anything, and how unemployment can be controlled if Mudaraba is widely applied in the Pakistani society, and how economic activities can be increased, how economic activities can be increased dynamically if Mudaraba and Musharaka are implemented in their true letter and spirit. In today's lecture, we'll continue with the combination of Musharaka and Mudaraba. How in a single transaction, how in a single mode of finance, how in a single business, the two parties can function as if they are doing Mudaraba and Musharaka at the same time. Dear students, as you have learnt, in Mudaraba there are two main parties, Mudarib and financier. And as I discussed very briefly in the last lecture, that financier provides finances and Mudarib functions as the management. Now, in the example of starting off the education institution or academy, you remember I mentioned if a person works as Mudarib initially and he arranges money from somewhere as a Rabul Mal, there is Rabul Mal or financier who provides finances to this person who is functioning as Mudarib, as a teacher, and then he controls the management. After having gathered certain amount of saving, he he not only functions as Mudarib, but he also wants to share in terms of finances. Now, when this is the situation, when this is the nature of investment and business, this is known as combination of Musharaka and Mudaraba. Briefly, Mudarib initially functions as Mudarib, and then at some later stage he adds capital, and then the certain formula for the distribution of profit, certain terms of references are agreed between the two parties. One is financier and the other is not only financier, but he is also functioning as Mudarib. For example, Rabul Mal initially contributes 100,000, and Mudarib, who is not a very rich person, but technically he is skilled and he is equipped with the skills of running a business, he also contributes or adds an amount of 50,000 rupees to this business. Now, total amount, if you add up, comes out to be 150,000. If we calculate the proportion, 1/3, if it is divided into three components, 50 contributed by Mudarib and another 50 plus 50 added by Rabul Mal. So basically, this 150 has three proportions: 1, 2, 3. 150,000, 250,000, 350,000. So Rabul Mal in this context has contributed two parts. Two of the three parts belong to the Rabul Mal. And Mudarib, who is also now functioning as a partner, contributed 1/3 of the total finance. So 2/3 of the total finance in terms of 100,000 contributed by Rabbul Mal, and 1/3, which makes 50,000, has been contributed by Mudarib. So Mudarib has here dual role to play. One as a manager of the business activities and the other as a partner. If this is the case, then percentage of profit is likely to increase, and it must be increased, because now Mudarib is not only functioning as a manager, but he is also functioning as a partner. So one proportion of profit will go to Mudarib as a Mudarib, and another proportion needs to be decided between the two parties, which will be paid to Mudarib as a shareholder or as a partner. So since the finances are in the proportion of 1/3, then proportion 2/3, or so therefore the profit can be distributed either according to this proportion, that is 1/3 of the finances have been contributed by Mudarib. So if there has been certain agreed amount, agreed proportion of the profit as a Mudarib, that will accrue to Mudarib first, and then out of the remaining, either 1/3 goes to him, or 1/4 of the remaining goes to him, or any other combination of the two goes to Mudarib. So it depends upon total agreement between the two parties. But one thing is certain, that Mudarib now will earn more than what he was earning as Mudarib before, because one proportion will go to him as a Mudarib and another proportion of profit goes to him as a partner. Dear students, Mudarba and Musharaka as a mode of financing, we are discussing this, how this is applicable in different project financing. In project financing, Mudarba and Musharaka can be useful in different formats. Suppose a financier want to finance whole project. Well, it can be done. Mudarba and Musharaka both are easily adopted, and there is no harm in it. Both can be done. If financier completely finances, if he provides total funding for the project, then the arrangement will be of Mudarba, and if financier partly provides funding and the remaining part is provided by Mudarib, this will be Mudarba and Musharaka at the same time. So both the characteristics may exist in this mode of finance. In Musharaka, investment comes from both the parties, but management may be from the both parties, may not be the responsibility of both the parties. And in combination, management responsibility of one party, investment comes from both the party. So this is what I have explained earlier. So both the possibilities are there. Number one, complete finances from one party, then it will be Mudarba, and the other party is functioning as Mudarib. In case of Musharaka, partly funding is made by one party, another party provides also funding, then they share in management. This will be completely Musharaka, and combination of the two. In case of combination of the two, one party provides funding and the other party is not only responsible for the management of the business activities, but that party, which is known as Mudarib, also contributes in terms of money, and this is the combination of the two. Now if one of the two parties wants to withdraw from the project, then how it can be done, how the things can be managed and arranged. If one party wants to withdraw from Musharka, for example, but the other party wants to continue, then one option is the party which wants to continue can purchase the shares of the other party. And how it can be purchased? There are different options. Number one, the party which wants to continue can arrange someone else who can provide the funding and wants to become the part of or partner of the business. So the funding will be arranged from another party who is going to be the next partner in the business, and this money will be paid back to the person who wants to withdraw, the party who wants to withdraw from the partnership. Suppose it is not possible. It is not possible to arrange the funding. Funding is huge, and the party which wants to continue cannot arrange this huge funding, and no one is available to provide funding and become the partner in the business. Then what is the option? The party who is willing to continue, they can purchase rest of the shares in parts, and the ownership is gradually shifted to the party who wants to continue from the party which wants to withdraw. But by the time the units are not completely transferred, the ownership is not completely transferred from the withdrawing party to the continuing party, the certain arrangements will be made as to the distribution of profit and the distribution of loss. Loss obviously will be in accordance with the contribution of finances in the business. There is one more option, and that is, suppose huge funding is required to continue the business and provide the finances to the withdrawing party. The party who wants to withdraw from the business needs to be made huge funding, needs to be returned the sum of amount which is big. So in case of requirement of big amount, the asset or the amount which is payable to the withdrawing party can be divided into different units, into different smaller units. For example, if the amount of money which after the valuation of asset comes out to be, say, 1 billion, and the continuing party cannot afford this 1 billion, then this 1 billion amount can be divided into smaller units of, say, 1 million each, or $500,000 each, or in any smaller denomination. The units can be made, and then these units can be sold in the market by inviting different partners. And you must be reading a number of invitations in the newspaper, on the websites. You must be receiving some of the mails where people are searching the new partners in their business, or some businesses want to expand and they are in search of partners, and they are not interested in developing the partnership with one party. In order to dilute the management, they want to reduce the weight of single party by distributing 1 billion into smaller units, or any amount of finances which are required to continue the business is divided into smaller units. So instead of developing partnership one party, the partnership is developed among many parties. The role of financial institution here is also important. Generally, financial institutions do not want to remain partner for a longer period of time. For example, in case of car leasing, when we buy a car through leasing arrangement, ijara arrangement, from diminishing musharka arrangement from the financial institution, financial institutions give us a limit, a time limit, within which the ownership is gradually transferred from financial institution to the client or the other party. Same is the case with any other business. If financial institutions become the partner, they would like to withdraw themselves at the earliest possible by earning certain amount of money in terms of profit while being partner in the business, or in case of any other alternative arrangement. So if financial institutions are willing to transfer ownership of their share of finances to any party, one party or more than one party, they can invite the interested parties to whom they can sell their share in one unit, in lump sum one unit, or they can divide their share into smaller units, and these smaller units can be sold to the interested party. So sale of share as one unit, if possible, can be done by the financial institution, and financier, if a financier can also divide the amount of finances or the value of the assets into smaller units, which can be sold to a number of investors. Now, after discussing the project financing and then certain situations wherein one party wants to withdraw and the other parties are called for or invited, now we are moving to another case of musharka, which is securitization of musharka. In the last lecture, in one of the previous lectures, we discussed securitization very briefly. This is the topic which needs more deliberation. So that is why I have added it again in my lecture. Not necessarily the smaller projects are run in the business activities or in the economy. There are some big projects. For example, if in Pakistan, if some of the businessmen want to make their investment in say power production, now power production units are huge, big. They require a lot of finances. Limited number of people cannot afford to finance smaller big projects. So under certain arrangements, musharka certificates can be issued by the financial institutions, by one financial institution, or by the consortium of financial institutions. And this is now very commonly done in different economies. Each certificate represents the proportion of ownership in the asset of musharka. These certificates can be floated through banks, through call for musharka certificate, through national daily advertisement, or through advertisement on the electronic media, and then the interested party show up in order to invest in the musharka certificate. The question is, if these musharka certificates have been sold and the certificate holders are in need of finances, are in need of liquidity, and they want to sell out these certificates in the market, can they sell these certificates, these musharka certificates in the market or not? Are they negotiable instruments or not? There is difference of opinion. let me illustrate it again. Musharaka certificates have been issued, have been sold by the financial institution or by the consortium of financial institutions, and the shareholders are now holding these Musharaka certificates. Can they sell these Musharaka certificates in the secondary market, like the security market or in the stock market, or not? Is it allowed to buy such Musharaka certificate from the second party or the third party or the fourth party, or not? There is difference of opinion on this issue. Some of the fuqaha totally disallow the trading of certificates at the price or at the value other than par value in the market, particularly in the situation when the Musharaka certificates which have been issued, they have been issued against certain amount of money, and this money has not been totally invested in the illiquid assets, and still the money which has been collected through the sale of Musharaka certificate remains in cash. Partly machinery has been purchased, the fixed assets have been purchased, but still the business is in the process of undertaking investment of this huge sum which has been generated by issuing the Musharaka certificates. Fuqaha who disallow the sale and purchase of these Musharaka certificates in the secondary market at the price other than their face value, they are of the view that still cash receivables or advances are there and they have not been invested in the asset, and money cannot be sold against money. For example, if the number of shares are, say, 100 Musharaka shares, 100 Musharaka shares have been sold, and the value of each share is 1 million. So total amount of money which has been generated for the purpose of a big project is 100 million. Since nothing has been purchased yet by this 100 million amount, so fuqaha are of the view that this is simple cash. It is simple cash, and cash cannot purchase cash. Therefore, the Musharaka certificate should not be traded in the secondary market at the price other than face value. Yes, there is no harm in buying and selling these Musharaka certificates at the face value. For example, if the face value is, say, 1 million, so it can be sold and purchased for 1 million. There is no harm in selling and buying it in the secondary market for 1 million. But more than that will be considered as an extra amount and excess amount, and this is known as riba. Riba means the interest. So money exchange with money in excess is riba. On this ground, some of the fuqaha disallow trading of the Musharaka certificates in the secondary market. Another example, securitization of Musharaka. Musharaka project is there, shares have been sold out, non-liquid assets make 40% of the total, and the liquid assets are still up to the proportion of 60%. If sold at higher price, for example, if the share is sold instead of 100, a share is sold at the price of 110. So this 110, according to the proportion of liquid and non-liquid assets, can be divided into two parts. 40% of 110, which makes 44 rupees, and 60%, which is still liquid asset, it makes 66. So basically, in this example, the non-liquid assets make only 40% of the share price, and the liquid asset makes greater proportion, which is 60% of liquid price. So therefore, 66, charging 66 against 60 is unjustified, because it is just cash against cash, and or in any other proportion. For example, this 110, if liquid asset makes 60 rupees and the non-liquid asset make 50 rupees, previously this non-liquid asset was 40, and later on it goes up to 50. So share can be sold if the non-liquid asset, if the value of non-liquid asset is involved. So trading in the secondary market is allowed if the value of non-liquid asset is fluctuating. It is rising, business performance is improving, and people or the investors or the shareholders are likely to get their share in the profit at the higher rate. Definitely they can buy at the higher price. But fuqaha have different opinion. Some of the fuqaha are very strict on this issue, and they disallow, totally disallow the sale and the purchase of musharaka certificates in the secondary market, because they believe this will open the door for the creation of riba, overvaluation, and may cause inflation in the economy. So securitization of musharaka sold less than 60 is not allowed. If 60 is the if 60 is the liquid asset, so it will be either negative interest or it will be a positive interest. If it is more than 60, positive interest. If it is sold at price less than 60, it is negative interest. So these things should be avoided. But some of the fuqaha says there is no harm in the trading of musharaka certificates if non-liquid assets exceed 50% of the total value. So if non-liquid assets exceed 50%, then there is no harm in the transaction of certificates even at the higher price, because in business the value of the business does not remain constant. Most probably it improves. The value increases over time because of the growth of the economy, because of the movement of economic activities in the right direction and development of the business. The value is likely to improve. The profit earning is likely to improve. The assets are likely to contribute more with the passage of time when business activities grow up. Next, our example related to mudarba and musharaka is financing of a single transaction. One of the examples for single transaction can be import financing. Letter of credit can be issued, and if letter of credit is developed without any margin, it is known as mudarba. It will be covered under mudarba arrangement. And if LC is developed with some margin, then this will be either musharaka or in combination of both. Expiry of the term. When does this transaction expire? The good is imported, funding is provided, and this imported good is most probably the imported good is sold. It is sold out after having imported the product. It is sold at the local market value according to the market forces of demand and supply. If there is high demand, if there is rising demand, this imported item will be sold at high price, profit earning will be reasonably large. And if according to the market forces of demand and supply, the prices, if the low price is charged, then the profit level is low. If the price of the imported item is not predetermined and it is left to the market forces, this is the situation. Either high price will be earned for the imported item in case of demand exceeding supply, or low price will be earned if demand exceeds supply but not with a good margin. But there may arise a situation where imported good is not sold. Then how to come out of this transaction? Importer may himself purchase the share of the financier. The importer who has imported the product, he thinks the market conditions are not conducive yet and he should wait. Or he goes to the market, the product is not sold out because of different reasons. Because the buyer is not available or due to certain reason the product is not sold. So how ownership can be transferred? The importer himself purchases the share of financier. Financier can be individual, financier can be the financial institution or the bank. Pre-agreed price or market price, both I have discussed. If there is no pre-agreed price, then the value of the imported item is to be determined according to the market forces of demand and supply. In case of export financing, the financial institutions provide funding for the production of exportable items. The exportable items are produced according to the specific order received from the international market, from different countries, from different buyers living abroad. And either the price of exported good is known. Most of the time it is known because when the orders are received, then certain adjustments are made and a single price is quoted. So if price is known, the expected profit can be calculated very easily. But if the price is not known, then the expected profit can be calculated from the historical data of the market price. Historical data means the goods of similar specification, how they were sold during the last 1 year, during the last 2 years, or during the last so many years or a couple of days. Now, keeping in view this trend of rising or falling price, an expected price is calculated, and once the expected price is calculated, the expected profit can be estimated very easily. Finance on the basis of Mudarba and Musharaka, and then the profit, one thing was left. If expected profit is calculated, then the proportion of profit can also be decided between the exporter and the financial institutions. Finance on the basis of Mudarba and Musharaka, pre-agreed ratio of profit on the export bill can be done. In order to secure, financier himself can put the following condition: export goods with full conformity will be the responsibility of the exporter. Now, this is up to the terms and conditions or the TORs which have been agreed between the two parties. Certain specifications are given by the foreign buyer to the exporter that the good which is to be sold to him should have such and such specifications, or briefly specs. For example, if refrigerators are to be made and later on these are to be exported, and the exporter has received the order of say 100 refrigerators, 50 refrigerators. Now the buyer has clearly specified as to the specifications, the properties, the facilities associated with the refrigerator, and exporter is bound to meet these requirements. So exporter of the goods will ensure conformity, and this is his responsibility to meet the requirement which have been provided by the potential buyers to the exporters. In case of any disturbance, suppose in case of color, the color is not according to the choice of the buyer, or the facilities associated with the product are not in accordance with the demand of the buyer, then who is responsible? The exporter will be the responsible, and this will be mudarba. If some disturbance found other than negligence, then all partners bear the loss according to their share in the finances, and this is as per Musharaka arrangement. Now, sharing the gross profit. Dear students, sharing the gross profit only. How and when the gross profit will be shared and how the profit will be shared. If financing is on the basis of Musharaka and it is difficult to evaluate all the assets, the depreciation and appreciation of cost. Now this situation, let me first elaborate the situation. Why such an issue may arise in case of Musharaka. It is possible that the client, the person who is already running a business, he has developed his fixed assets, he has his building, he has his machinery, and other installations are being utilized in the business activities. Now he is going to sign an agreement in terms of in the line of Musharaka with a party, with a new partner, and obviously when he is going to sign an agreement with the new partner, the new funding will be added to the business activities wherein the first partner has already developed a big capital assets. Now already the business was run over there. So obviously the new partner who is joining this Musharaka agreement, the building is not being utilized for this particular business for which the new agreement is being signed. So obviously the first partner, who is the owner of fixed assets, he has more rights. He has already invested big sum in the fixed asset, and the new partner does not have share in the fixed asset. Just these fixed assets are being, this machinery is being utilized to run another business, to produce another product at the same place, in the same building. When we say building, this is an asset, and this asset belongs to the first partner. In this case, how profit will be shared? Now here the calculation of profit is a bit difficult assignment. Why it is difficult? Because the actual cost for this activity, which has been agreed between the two parties, is difficult to calculate. For example, what proportion of the fixed asset was employed in the new business? is difficult to calculate. For example, there was huge building, very spacious, and only part of it is being utilized in the business activities, started and launched on mutual agreement between the two parties, but it is not known how much is the rent and how much should be deducted while calculating the profit from the total earning. Now here the experts, the economists, the Islamic economists say, the Islamic finance experts are of the view that either before starting the business activities under this situation, all the matters should be resolved, all the calculations should be done, and an agreed proportion should be decided beforehand. And in this calculation, at least machinery or the fixed assets or the building, if it will be unjustified to subtract the cost of the entire machinery from the total earning, subtract cost of the building or the entire rent of the building from this business activity, because on the same building many other economic activities, business activities are simultaneously running. Now here fuqaha are of the view that at least material, labor cost, electricity cost, they can be calculated and they should be subtracted while calculating the profit. And the others say that the depreciation of the fixed assets can also be added as a cost while calculating the profit. So these are two different points of view. But in to be on the safe side, I would suggest that all the calculations should be done beforehand and the proportion of profit should be decided before the business is launched, and all these possible untoward situations must be avoided even at the start of the business. Running Musharaka account on the basis of daily products. This is very important. Running Musharaka account on the basis of daily products is a need of the time. The classical fiqh experts did not explain such situations. Perhaps classical fuqaha did not confront with the situation where day-to-day accounts are run. The economic activities were simple. The technological advancement was not experienced. But nowadays, the technological advancement has made the economic activities very fast, complicated, and the businessmen are more dynamic and more diverse. Businesses are now more diversified as well. Even the economic activities are now recorded not only daily basis but on hourly basis. The performance of financial variables is calculated even on hourly basis, or in some cases even less than 1 hour. Now in the conventional system, such examples exist, such situations arise, and the financial institutions can handle such situations according to their formula. Let me read it out, what the conventional system is doing. Many financial institutions finance the working capital of an enterprise by opening a running account for them from where the clients draw different amounts at different intervals. The accounts are opened for this purpose. Financial institutions facilitate their clients whose businesses are on daily basis, whose business activities require funding on daily basis. They receive cash flows, and these cash flows need to be deposited on hourly basis, daily basis, on even transaction basis. So in conventional system, the financial institutions have provided this facility to their clients. Now, but at the same time, they keep returning their surplus amounts. So not only the enterprise is withdrawing money on regular basis, on daily basis, on hourly basis, by using these accounts which have been developed by the financial institutions, they are also receiving flows, and these flows are supposed to be added to these daily accounts. And how the settlement is done: on the date of maturity, the interest is calculated on the basis of daily products, because in conventional system, interest is the symbol of earning or return. And on the date of maturity, this date of maturity depends upon the nature of business activities. For certain business, this date of maturity can be the last day of month, can be the last day of the week, or some other arrangement, maybe weekly basis, fortnightly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis. So all different time series are used for the financial activities. Now, what is the solution? What is the alternative possible in Islamic financial system? Under the arrangement of Musharaka, running accounts can be opened. Financial institutions can finance working capital of the clients. The deposits, flows, cash flows, inflows, outflows can be continued for a certain period of time as per the nature of business activities. And then profit can be calculated on the average balance base. And this profit can be distributed according to the mutually agreed proportion. In further detail, let me illustrate it again, describe this account again, running Musharaka account. A certain percentage of the actual profit must be allocated for the management. 2, the remaining percentage of the profit must be allocated for the investors. And I think this option will help the system to stabilize or to manage the finances more conveniently. The loss, if any, should be borne by the investors only in exact proportion of their respective investments. Now, this thing was missing in the conventional system. The average balance of the contributions made to the Musharaka account, calculated on the basis of daily products, shall be treated as share capital of the financier. This option is also missing from the conventional system. The profit accruing at the end of the term, again this term can be week, this term can be a month, this term can be a quarter, 6 months, depending upon nature of the business activities. So the profit accruing at the end of the term shall be calculated on daily product basis and shall be distributed accordingly, according to the mutually agreed proportion. Further detail on running Musharaka account, argument, why share profit when the other party during a period had no money invested in the business. This is the question. If A and B agreed to launch a business under Musharaka arrangement and each of them contribute 50,000, when A did not invest his money into the joint pool, I beg pardon, this is joint pool, not joint pool. There are two parties who have agreed to start a business under Musharaka arrangement. One party has contributed 50,000 and the other party has not yet contributed. The activities were started. Agreement has been signed. Musharaka was started. One party contributed and the other party's contribution is awaited. But the business earns 10,000 on this 50,000 amount. How to distribute this profit? It will be distributed according to the agreed ratio. Even if the second party, party B, did not contribute yet, but agreement was signed, the Musharaka started, business activities were launched, and the business earned certain amount of profit. On 50,000, 10,000 were earned. This is situation number one. Situation number two. %, the same statement. How? Agreement was signed, Musharaka started, party A contributed 50,000 and the profit was earned 10,000, yet the other party's contribution, financial contribution is awaited. Now, as the second party contributes and the business activities expand, the business suffers certain losses. The business suffer certain losses. Now, how this will be done? The losses will be adjusted within the profit which were earned in the earlier transactions, and after having adjusted the loss, the profit will be distributed according to the mutually agreed formula, mutually agreed proportion of distribution of profit between the two parties. Working capital finance. Dear students, we have discussed very practical examples which we are facing and confronting in our daily life, in our business activities. I hope you will try to explore similar examples around you in business activities and economic activities, and it won't be difficult for now. It won't be difficult for you now to decide about the Musharaka activities in business, and you have learned how to decide about the distribution of profit under different situations, under different circumstances. Now we move on to the working capital finance. Before we start working capital finance, let me make it clear, since this is a big topic and it may take more time, so we won't be able to complete in today's lecture. Therefore, I very quickly summarize what we have done so far, what we have discussed so far in this lecture We started our discussion from the possibility of combining Musharaka and Mudarba, and we explored and tried to investigate different possibilities where only Musharaka can be used as a mode of finance, where Mudarba can be used as a mode of finance, where both of them can be used combined as a mode of finance. What if a person is Mudarib as well as financier? How profit is distributed? This we have discussed in detail. Then Mudarba and Musharaka as a mode of financing we have discussed in the perspective of project financing. In the project financing, we studied different possibilities. For example, in project financing, the project was financed, it was launched, and after the launching of the project or the business, one of the parties decided to withdraw. Then how the withdrawing parties' finances will be substituted by either issuing one unit of the share or multiple units of the share to the new shareholders. And these new shareholders can be banks, these new shareholders can be the new investors, friends, relatives, or the other parties. We also discussed the examples of securitization and Musharaka in more detail. Although we discussed securitization earlier in one of the earlier lectures, but today we discussed securitization of Musharaka in more detail, and we explored the possibility of launching big projects with the help of consortia, with the help of financial institutions, and how this can be done. There is one option of issuing Musharaka certificate. There can be other options. Having introduced the Musharaka certificates, we discussed the possibilities of trading of Musharaka certificates in the secondary market. There is difference of opinions between fuqaha. Some of the fuqaha allow the sale and purchase of Musharaka certificates in the secondary market if the non-liquid assets exceed 50%. The others do not allow trading of Musharaka certificate, particularly when the finances are still available in liquid form. Their argument is that if the finances are available, if capital is available in liquid form, it is just sale of money for money with the same denomination or at the higher level, and this surplus amount is tantamount riba or interest. So on these grounds, the trading of Musharaka certificate is not allowed in the secondary market. But there is moderate point of view as well existing, and this is very useful and helpful for the business, for the investors, that they can issue Musharaka certificates, and business activities is a continuous process. Business never stop. Fluctuations happen, and fluctuations are inevitable. Sometimes more earning, sometimes less earning, but business activities are associated with the number of consumers, the population, and the people living in the country. So if there are persons, if there are human beings, if people are living, the business activities cannot stop. So therefore, both the options are there, and the flexible view is there. that the Musharaka certificates can be traded in the secondary market, but I would suggest we should take care of, we should use this option very carefully, because this may open the door for speculation, and the speculative activities in the conventional system have been observed as manipulating the economic activities, creating economic unrest and default of the stock market, and involvement of finances in the secondary market instead of real market, real sector of the economy. And this may open the doors for bad things, bad economic activities in the economy. So this should be used with a grain of salt. This option of sale and purchase or trading of the Musharaka certificates in the secondary market should be considered very carefully. This is what I have shared with you, the example, and this is what I explained now. And financing of a single transaction under the trading arrangement, import and export. We discussed how LC can be opened with margin, without margin. If it is with margin, then it is under Musharaka arrangement or the combination of the two. And if it is without margin, it may be considered under the arrangement of Mudarba. And we discuss for this import financing, we discuss the option of expiry of the term, how it can be expired when imported goods have reached the importing country, the importing person, client, how he can sell this imported item, and how he can relieve the financier from this import transaction. Then in the export option we discussed, and then how to share gross profit only, particularly in the situation when the same fixed asset is used for multiple business activities, and how the profit will be shared, and how to consider the cost of material, labor, electricity, depreciation of the fixed assets. These things should be incorporated in the case where the fixed assets are being employed for multiple business activities. So we stop here. This is the end of today's lecture. Dear students, I hope you must have learned something from this lecture, and in the end I would advise you to explore the material, not only material to read, but to ponder upon the real sector economic activities and explore the opportunities of using Mudarba and Musharaka trading arrangements to the maximum extent in your daily life. Thank you. Allah Hafiz, and see you in the next lecture with another topic. Allah Hafiz.